Welcome everyone to this August 19th City Council meeting. Just to explain how things are going to go tonight, we are going to hold a regular business meeting for Midvale City Council right now between 5:30 and 6 p.m. Then we will have a special Truth in Taxation meeting that will start as close to 6 o'clock as possible, not before 6. And you can find both agendas online. Those who are participating remotely, a little bit of a difference between our normal order of operations. You can participate in the public hearing portion of the 6 p.m. meeting. All of those instructions are on our website. You do need to register if you want to participate remotely in our Truth in Taxation meeting. We will explain that in further detail when the Truth in Taxation meeting happens. So just for those who may be online or in the audience now, we are going for our regular business meeting here at 5:30. And as we do with all meetings, we are going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll stand and repeat. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And Rory is not here tonight, but in her place is Charlie. And Charlie, will you see who is here and who is not here?
Councilmember Robinson. Here. Micolash. Here. Brown.
Here.
Billings. Here. Glover.
Here. Okay, we are all present and accounted for. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have one item to consider tonight, and that is to consider the minutes of August 5th, 2025. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Charlie, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Billings. Yes. Glover.
Aye.
Robinson. Aye. Brown.
Yes.
Micolash. Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Moving on to action items, we have one action item to consider tonight, a time-sensitive action item, which is, we have two. There's only one on my list. Okay, I must have a previous agenda. So we have two action items on the agenda tonight. First, consider resolution number 2025 R26, accepting deeds related to the 2025 utility and street improvement project and authorizing the mayor to execute the public entity affidavits and record said deeds. Kate.
Yes, so this will be the third time I will be coming before council regarding the 2025 utility and street improvement project. As a reminder, for this project, they'll be putting in culinary water improvements, sanitary sewer improvements, storm drain improvements, and then there'll be some roadway improvements. They have started on the installing the sanitary sewer improvements along Depot Street and across Holden. But I'm coming before you tonight because it's not switching. Because a lot of the roadway improvements require right-of-way to put in the curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Nate and I have been meeting with the property owners, and we've met with all but two to acquire the right-of-way through quitclaim deeds, of which we only have 2 signed, but it seems like the all but 2 that we've met with have all been on board and are looking forward to the improvements. So we're bringing before the council the 2 quitclaim deeds that have been signed, and then per Utah code, the city is required to execute and record a public entity affidavit that essentially says that the city is accepting the property and taking control of it. And so we'll have those 2, and we're asking that the council approve. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot. lost my train. So the fiscal impact. So the two attached quitclaim deeds specify that in exchange for the property owner will get $10 along with the services and improvements that we're providing for their overall property. And then if there's any future quitclaim deeds that require any sort of monetary compensation, we'll use market value to compensate them. And then the cost for that will come from the project's existing budget. And so we're coming before council now to approve the two executed quitclaim deeds along with the corresponding public entity affidavits, as well as a pre-authorization for the mayor to execute all future public entity affidavits that are related to the additional quitclaim deeds that we get as part of the project. I do want to note that the future deeds that we acquire will be substantially similar in form and content to those included in the packets. And that's the recommended motion, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I'm assuming the monetary value on each of the quitclaim deeds will remain the same on all of them.
So for the most part, they have agreed that in exchange for the new sidewalk, curb and gutter, because a lot of them have storm drain issues, that they're fine quitclaim deeding the property. For Big Mountain Barbell, we are reducing the size of their parking lot. And so there is potentially going to be monetary compensation for that right of way. And that would be based on just what the market rate is per square footage for that type of lot.
Any other clarifying questions for Kate from the council?
Just so you know, UDOT does this all the time. They've done it to my property.
$15.
Yeah.
They give you whatever the market rate is, but it's not that much property, so.
No, yeah, so the green shows where the right of way is that we're acquiring. I should specify Depot Street, we do have a prescriptive easement on a lot of that. So they actually have started the road work there. Mainly where we're acquiring right of way that is actually taking property is along that east side. And so we're going 5 feet in. And that's so that we can have an appropriate road width, and then we can put in the curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
Okay, if there are no other clarifying questions, I think Kate is scrolling through the recommended motion on the board for council.
Mayor, I move to suspend the rules and approve resolution number 2025-R-46, accepting deeds related to the 2025 utility and street improvement project and authorizing the mayor to execute the public entity affidavits and record said deeds.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Charlie, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Billings? Yes. Glover?
Aye.
Robinson? Aye. Brown?
Yes.
Micolash?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thanks, Kate. Moving on to our second action item, surprise second action item based on my previous agenda version. Consider resolution number 2025 R48, adopting pay scales and setting salaries for elected and statutory appointed officers for Midvale City. And as always, to discuss such fiscal concerns, we have Mariah Hill.
This did get moved. It was on the other agenda, but then they changed the code that it can't have budget related items. It can only have specifically the budget. So move this here. This is all of the salaries that are specific to our employees. The actuals are in the budget. This is just adopting the pay scale that will have moved up with our COLA of 2.4%, and then the elected official salaries as well with that 2.4%. So it's just the pay ranges, not specifically where everyone falls. That's a part of the budget. So that's what this is adopting, is the new pay scales for the fiscal year 2026 with 2.4% increase. Any questions? Then a motion is in your packet.
Okay, there are no questions for Mariah. There is a motion in the packet.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2025-R-48, adopting pay scales and setting salaries for elected and statutory appointed officers for Midvale City.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Charlie, will you call the yeas and nays?
Councilmember Billings?
Yes.
Glover?
Aye.
Robinson? Aye. Brown,
Yes.
Micolash,
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously as well. We do not have a closed session tonight, so we will adjourn our city council regular business meeting. And yes, for those in the audience or who will be in the audience, we will reconvene at
Jim.
6 p.m.
Why?
No motion.
We have to do it all again. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned until 6 p.m. welcome everyone to our 6 p.m. meeting. We just finished a 5:30 regular business city council meeting. This meeting is our Truth in Taxation meeting. Before we start, I just wanted to make note of the fact that 2 Box Elder County police officers were killed on Sunday night, Monday morning. Another sheriff's deputy was shot. Police K-9 was shot as well. So I want to start this meeting, if we can, just with a moment of silence for the fallen officers. Thank you. We will start with our Truth in Taxation meeting. We will go through some housekeeping items because this is a little bit out of the ordinary. We don't do Truth in Taxation meetings every week, thankfully. But to participate in the public hearing portion of this special meeting digitally, you can go to www.midvale.utah.gov/truth-in-taxation and follow the instructions or register for the webinar at https://bit.ly/45LUCAR. Those links are also available on our YouTube page for those who may be watching on the YouTube page, but hopefully those who wish to comment on anything budget related are here in the room today. But we do have the option to make public comment online if you use the raise hand function in the webinar. So follow those links and I will keep looking over here at our IT crowd and they will let me know if we have anyone in the webinar with their hand raised. So now that that is out of the way, we are going to start this meeting with an unprecedented second Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll stand and repeat after. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our fearless recorder, Rory, is not here today, but in her stead is Charlie. And Charlie, will you see who is here and who is not here?
Councilmember Robinson. Here. Mikuláš. Here. Brown.
Here.
Billings. Here. Glover.
Here.
Okay, that is all of us. We are present and accounted for. On the agenda tonight, and I believe City Manager Dahl has spoken to some of you in the crowd. We have on the agenda public comments. By statute, we're not allowed to have the traditional public comment section. Don't be alarmed when it comes to the budget item, the public hearing, we will then open the meeting to public comment. It's just one of those strange, whatever state rules that we can only have on the agenda, things that relate to the budget. So I will ask for a motion from the council to table item 2, public comments.
A motion to table public comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Charlie, does that require a roll call or just a voice vote?
I don't know.
We just do a roll call.
We'll do a roll call just to be safe. Charlie, will you call the yeas and nays?
Councilmember Robinson. Aye. Mikuláš. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
Billings. Yes. Glover.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We will table public comments, but again, we will open public comment during the public hearing, which is coming up right now. We are here tonight for one reason and one reason only, and that is for a public hearing to consider levying a Midvale City public safety property tax for calendar year 2025 and levying taxes upon all real and personal property within the corporate boundaries of Midvale City, Utah. And here to discuss that, as she does so eloquently and capably of all financial matters, this is her walk-up. I just compliment her as she walks up. Mariah Hill, Administrative Services Director.
Okay, I'm just gonna run through, we do have 2 action items related to this. One is the public safety property tax rate and the other is the adoption of our final budget. I'm just going to do it all in one presentation as it's kind of all one big picture. Just a quick overview of the budget for Midvale City. This presentation is a budget overview. It's a high level presentation. If anyone is interested in the line item details, those are available in the budget book that was both in the packet for this meeting and is on our website. So that this is high level. There are details elsewhere if people are interested in those. The final budget is the city's estimated revenues and expenditures for each fund for July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, and all of our departments fall within a fund. The final budget has been prepared by the finance department and the city manager and is officially presented by the city's budget officer, who is Matt, our city manager, and reflects an effort to maintain the city's current level of service in these uncertain economic times, including capturing rising costs and making cuts wherever possible. And then after adoption, the final budget becomes an operating document for the city. It's what we operate off of financially, make financial decisions, and the city staff and the city council have been actively engaged in this budget process for 6+ months. I know I started working on it in January, so if anyone in the public thinks that this is the first time this is being presented to the council, that's just not true at all. They've been engaged throughout. For the timeline of how we got here, we had a budget and strategy workshop together as senior staff and city council in the end of March. You all adopted a tentative budget on May 6th. We held a public hearing on June 3rd. You adopted the certified tax rate for general operations of the city, and a proposed public safety property tax on June 17th. And then tonight we're having our truth and taxation public hearing and adopting the final budget. Some changes from the tentative budget that are worth noting is that we had changes in just about every single one of our revenues in the general fund. I'll go through that in a little bit more detail in a moment. You have adopted the certified tax rate, which is before you. So that's set into stone, the property tax amount that will go into the general fund. We decreased a 3% COLA to a 2.4 to reflect the May Western CPI. That was true across all departments. We got actual insurance costs. We had a slight increase in the UPD budget from their tentative to final. We had some changes to our vehicle operating costs, and that affected multiple departments. And then we had a couple one-time projects added. So I wanted to mainly show the detail for the changes from tentative in the general fund, because that's where they're most. Everything else was mainly salaries and benefits. But you can see here that as tight as we are, I was just taking every ounce of data that I could get. So the tentative budget, I only had information from April and before. I've taken the last couple of months into account wherever I could and made adjustments and projections as best that I could. We had a couple significant things that I'll talk about a little bit later on, but we did have an overall increase of about $166,000, but that wasn't without finagling on my part. And then here's the changes from the tentative, or on the expense side. I went through most of these. We had changes in our salaries and benefits, insurance actuals, the technology and streets line items are the one-time projects, our contributions, the difference in our public safety fund, again, our insurance and facilities. We had an increase in our professional services for building inspections, but that's a self-funded situation, and then our vehicle operating costs. Okay, for the overview here, in the general fund, our revenues and expenditures, since it's a balanced budget, are just over $27 million. This reflects a 13.4% decrease from last fiscal year. Our taxes total $18.3 million, licensing and permits just over $900,000, intergovernmental revenues $4.4 million, charges for services $2.37 million, fines and forfeitures $825,000, miscellaneous revenue just about $200,000, and a use of fund balance on those one-time projects of about $126,000. For a breakdown of our tax revenues, our sales tax is coming in projected at $11.3 million. This is a 1% decrease from the fiscal year 25 budget. This is just exactly on trend with the data we're receiving, though we do have one set of data we should receive tomorrow for fiscal year 2025, but I suspect it will be right on that 1% decrease. We do have property taxes of about $3.5 million coming into the general fund. That includes just $3,500 from new growth, so just not very much. Our franchise and telecom tax is $2.8 million. This reflects one of the major changes I was I showed earlier, and that's because we discovered that Enbridge had a 30% rate decrease from the utility commission, and so that comes back to us in a 30% decrease in what we receive from them, since that's a percentage tax. And then our other taxes, delinquent property tax, transient room, and motor vehicle in lieu of, come to a total of $703,000. A quick sales tax overview: when you buy anything in Midvale, your sales tax will equal 7.45%. 1% of that is the local sales and use tax, and of that 1%, or 1 penny on the dollar, half of that comes back to Midvale as point of sale. The other half of that penny goes into a state pool that is then distributed based on population, the percent of the population. So that's a lot smaller portion that comes back to Midvale than the point of sale. Our historical sales tax in the city, we saw some good growth over COVID, and then have seen some decline as there's more economic uncertainty and things like that. We're projecting $11.3 million. Some other notes on sales tax is that they are distributed to the city monthly by the Utah State Tax Commission. There's a 2-month delay in distribution, so what we see in August are from June sales. This is our most susceptible tax to economic trends. I already mentioned that we saw higher spending in COVID, but that has decreased pretty drastically. And then we're projecting 1% decrease from our fiscal 25 budget. For property tax, the total taxable value in Midvale is $3.7 billion. Our eligible new growth value is just under $11 million. And the way that number is calculated is they take the total 2025 assessed value in Midvale, and they minus out the 2024 value, and then any value changes to existing properties, and then that's what gets us our new growth. So although it looks like we may have seen a lot of new growth, that's how we get to that number that really only leads to us getting about $10,000 in new property tax from new growth. The average Midvale residential value is $492,000 in 2025, and the taxable residential value is about $270,000. So for the certified tax rate, the City Council adopted the certified tax rate that was given to us by the state. For general operations, like I said, this is just what goes into the general fund. It'll generate just about $3.5 million in property tax revenue, $10,000 in new growth, and there should be no change on the average residential value on what they pay to their city portion of their property taxes. For expenditure overview, I've been over this stuff a little bit, but some of the highlights of the expenditures in the general fund is that we did have a 2.4% COLA increase and a 2% merit increase for all of our employees, some market and midpoint adjustments. We do have a couple new FTEs, an event coordinator and RDA attorney that are paid for mostly out of the RDA budgets, which are passed separately. And then our benefits, we had 0% medical increase, 4.5% dental. I did find an accounting error that kind of helped save us some money in our projections. And then we've selection changes that were actuals have been implemented into this new budget. We had some IT equipment increases for switches and server replacements that we distributed across departments. We have properly budgeted restricted revenues for our building department and our B&C road funds, as those can only be used for specific purposes. We had like very minimal small budget requests, like under $5,000 here and there across departments, and budget cuts across departments. Our one-time project requests were in streets, GIS, and for the election. And then we have the Public Safety Special Revenue Fund creation, which shifted paying for public safety out of the general fund to transferring a big chunk of the general fund revenue to that new fund. And then just as a note that 13 out of our 23 general fund departments have an overall budget decrease this year, even with the wage increases included in there. So that just shows the work that our departments have done throughout the year to just make sure that they're doing everything that they can to maintain service levels, but do it at the least cost possible. Okay, we're going to split the general fund into some big chunks. The first being our general government, which includes all those. I'm not going to read those out, but the administration part here, this is a total of about $3.9 million, 14.4% of the general fund, and is a 2.7% increase over last year's budget. Administrative services, which is finance, justice court, IT, and me, had an increase of 1.7% for a total budget of about $2.7 million, and is 9.8% of the general fund. Public Works that operates out of the general fund is streets, parks, their administration and facilities. They had a decrease of 0.6% overall from last year, about $3.2 million, and make up about 12% of the general fund. Community development, which is our building inspections, community development admin, engineering and planning, and code enforcement, that tiny little sliver there, had an increase of about 7.1%. That's mainly from bringing our building inspection team in-house and the costs associated with that. They're about $2 million and about 7.1% of the general fund. I didn't mention, but please ask questions at any time. So also, as mentioned, you've seen this 14 times at this point. Our transfers had a significant increase from last year, like I said, because that big portion, that public safety fund transfer used to be paid for out of the general fund, but in the shift of what we're doing, that just makes our transfers look a lot greater. And then we also transfer money to make our debt service payments and the debt service payment out of the telecom fund for Utopia as well. Okay, I need to grab some water. Okay, our debt service fund, the budget is about $1.8 million. This is a transfer, the revenues for this are a transfer from the general fund, and then we get some money in from the developer and the RDA for some pass-through loans that we have, but our expenditures are 2017 sales tax bonds, lease payment to the MBA, and then those two loans that I just mentioned. Okay, for the Public Safety Revenue Fund, this fiscal year 2026 will mark the creation of a Public Safety Special Revenue Fund, and the proposal is to house all of our public safety related revenues and expenses. It'll be funded by a transfer from the general fund of about $13.7 million, and then the proposed public safety property tax, which is $940,000. The expenditures will include the animal control contract we have with the county, our UFA emergency manager contract, UPD, and then some tiny miscellaneous items in there. The UPD increase was 3.46%, which is about $473,000 over last year's UPD contract. The proposed public safety property tax is because public safety has put an increasing strain on the general fund and the revenue sources that are just one big pool. And we've had to do property tax increases in the past couple of years to help fund public safety. But again, that goes into one big pool that is the general fund. By breaking this out here, we're making sure that those funds are dedicated to public safety. The city can level a property tax by ordinance for a specified service that's stated in Utah code, which allows tax increases to be public safety specific moving forward. The revenues that go into a special fund must be only used for those services. We have followed the Truth-in-Taxation code to ensure that this process is proper. And if we don't adopt this property tax, the public safety property tax, then we'll need to make some large cuts to the general fund. You can also see you can see the example on that graph of how public safety has strained the general fund. And over the last 10 years, UPDs has increased 97%, while the other portion of the general fund, the non-UPD, over that same 10 years has only increased 14.5%. Back to the property tax information, because that's relevant to the public safety property tax as well. The total taxable value of about $3.8 million, average residential value of $492,000, and taxable residential value of $270,000. The final budget for the public safety fund includes $940,561 to be generated by the public safety property tax with a rate of 0.00249. This includes the fiscal year 26 UPD increase, 3% of the fiscal year 25 UPD budget. And I just wanted to note that the general fund transfer that will fund the rest of the public safety fund represents 93% of all of our general fund sales and property tax. So it's a big chunk still of the general fund. This tax will be $67.38 annually on the 2025 average residential value of $492,000. Here's just another graphic of this to show what a Midvale property tax notice might look like, and how the Midvale City is compared to other entities on your property tax notice. And then this is just a requirement from the Truth-in-Taxation information, but I have to show all the entities that are proposing a property tax increase. So here you go. in the county. Some information on the notices and communication that the city did around this. You adopted the proposed tax rate on June 17th. We had newspaper publications that combined that notice you just saw was done by the county and the Deseret News and the Salt Lake Tribune at the end of July. We did one on Salt Lake Tribune on Sunday. The notices of valuation issued from the Salt Lake County Auditor had that information included on it. We had digital ads on the public notice website, Utah Legals, and the Midvale City website. And then in addition to what was required by the truth and taxation process, we sent out billing inserts to everyone who gets a utility bill from the city. We had social media posts. We had information at our Harvest Day City booth, and it was on the front page of the Midvale newsletter. So we've done all that we can to try and help people understand why we're proposing this. I think that I meant to delete that slide and I did. Okay, on to our capital projects fund. The total budget here is over $32 million. A lot of this is carryovers from last year. You can see in that first column, which are proceeds from borrowing and the use of fund balance, mainly the public works facility, and then also bonding we intend to do for transportation money we get from the state. Also general plan update, canal trails, Port of Rockwell Trail Study, and the Midvale Mural Program, typo, sorry, are all from that funding. From our sales tax that's specific to some other transportation, we'll have sidewalk, curb and gutter replacement and pavement management, and then some capital facility maintenance projects. The water fund will have total revenues of about $8.5 million. This is a 9.1% increase from last year. Both our water and sewer fund budgets are prepared per a 5-year comprehensive financial sustainability plan that was completed in fiscal year 2021. This is our final year of that. And so it reflects rate increases that were adopted in fiscal year 2021 by that council. The expenditures are about $7.9 million. This is down 52%. That's mainly because of capital projects that were budgeted on bond money rolled forward from fiscal year 2024. This budget also reflects citywide salary and benefit increases, an increase to our Jordan Valley contract, and some scheduled capital projects. The sewer fund has total revenues of about 4.3%, 7.8% increase from last year, again, on a comprehensive financial sustainability plan that was completed in 2021. The expenditures are just under $4 million for a 16% decrease. They also had capital projects funded by bond money that fell off, has citywide salary and benefit increases. We had increases for our South Valley water operating in capital that we contract with them, and scheduled capital projects here as well. The stormwater fund has a total budget of about $2.3 million. This is a 0.1% decrease. It's very similar to previous years, but also reflects citywide salary and benefit increases. Street lighting has a total budget of $197,000. This is a 31% decrease from last year, as there's a street light master plan that's currently underway, was budgeted for in fiscal year 2025. Also reflects citywide salaries and benefit increases. Sanitation fund is about $1.6 million. This is a 0.2% increase. This does reflect 2% increase in sanitation rates that was passed with our fee schedule in June. Though I think it's worth noting that Glenn worked really hard to maintain this fund to keep it in an equal balance to the previous year when he negotiated a new contract, and so that's excellent. And then also reflects citywide salary and benefit increases. Our telecommunications fund is just over $1 million. This is a 2% increase from last year, and this is really just debt service we paid to Utopia for having them in the city. Our fleet fund, which is an internal service fund, it's funded by money being paid in from all the departments that use vehicles to ensure that we have replacement and operating costs distributed fairly across departments and funds. This has a decrease of about 5%. It also has citywide salary and benefit increases, and then has planned vehicle and equipment replacement of $1.4 million. IT is also an internal service fund, similarly funded like fleet, has a total budget of just under $600,000. This is a 2% increase from last year. Has citywide salary and benefit increases, and then a carryover from last year for $200,000 for community development software. That's really in the works now, actually. I think we've been moving that money forward for 3 years. Any questions?
Any questions for Mariah from the council?
I just have one, just for information for the public. So we took the average of a homeowner. What does this do to businesses?
I have that information. It's on the public notice. I can pull up and come back and answer that for you. It's, I think 217.
I just want everybody to know that the
It's
businesses
100%.
are paying 100%
They are.
increase, not what the homeowners are
They
paying.
are.
So,
They don't get the residential exemption.
so when you go to the businesses in Midvale, you have to realize it's costing them more to do business. So I just want that, I want us to know that the sales tax that we're getting is a lot more than our property tax. And it's those businesses in Midvale that are giving us that money back. I mean, you're paying it, not the businesses, but if they're costing them more to stay in business, then it either raises your prices or they take less. So I just want that, everybody to know that.
Yep. That is a part of all the public noticing that's going on, is that amount, the impact on they use the same value, the $492,000. They just do it at 100%.
Yeah, where the homes, I think, are
270. They get a 45% exemption.
exemption.
Yeah.
Just as general knowledge, so that everybody knows what's really happening.
Yep. When the time comes, will you change so they have the motions? Thank you.
Any other questions for Mariah? Okay, this is a public hearing. Okay. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to make public comment, we'll first need a motion from the council to open this to public comment.
There, a motion, we open the public comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of opening this meeting to public comment, say aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, so we are to the public comment portion of this meeting. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to give public comment, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 3 minutes. We do ask that everyone stick to the 3 minutes because there's probably quite a number of people who would like to speak on this. So once 3 minutes is up, I will kindly remind you of that fact. And we also ask that everyone keep their comments as respectful as possible, as we know Midvale is known to do. So I know that won't be a problem. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Schmidt. And before I start, I want to thank our veterans who have given so much so that we can participate in this democracy. Hopefully we can protect and preserve it. I'm here tonight to remind all Utahns, including people in Midvale, about a 40-year-old statewide circuit breaker program that some in this room would qualify for. It provides partial property tax relief for qualified Utahns, but you need to get your applications in to the Salt Lake County Treasurer's Office in the next 2 weeks. Deadline is Labor Day. There are 6 different property tax relief programs available statewide that some residents here will qualify for. Their taxpayers can find out more by going to tax.utah.gov and search for circuit breaker. There's programs for blind people, indigent, disabled vets, active duty vets, people experiencing hardship, and low-income senior homeowners. The homeowner's credit for seniors 66 or older, or unmarried widows or widowers with household incomes in 2024 of $42,623. Last year, 2,277 low-income senior households in Salt Lake County received an average of $691 in property tax relief through the homeowner's credit. Unfortunately, last session, Senator Dan McKay of Riverton tried to destroy the senior program, calling it welfare for people who don't pay taxes and suggesting that seniors need to move from their homes. We all know $691 is not going to cover a property tax bill. Now, there's over 60 different entities in the state proposing property tax hikes this year, making the statewide relief program more important than ever for low-income seniors. Why Senator McKay targeted only this help for low-income seniors is baffling. Thankfully, many spoke out against his bill and Governor Cox vetoed it. But McKay is back and intends to destroy this tax relief program for seniors in the next session. Please join with the chorus of voices and help stop him. One person who stood up strongly for low-income seniors is a representative from Midvale, Steve Ellison. While he and I might disagree on many issues, on this issue, he was amazing. Representative Ellison works hand in hand with Dan McKay as they chair the respective Revenue and Taxation Committees in the House and Senate. But as the original co-sponsor in the House, he not only withdrew his support, but also lobbied against his friend's bill. He should be commended for his principled stand. Also standing strong for seniors, as usual, was Senator Kathleen Reeby and Representative Andrew Stoddard, who represent people in Midvale. I hope that people will avail themselves of this help that is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for those resources. Is there anyone else who would like to give public comment? State your name for the record.
Chad Thomas, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. A line item on a tax notice isn't transparency. In 2021, it was a water rate increase of $36 a year. About in 2023, it was the new rec center, roughly $50 a year. Last year, property tax increase at another $30, and then now we're facing our largest proposed increase since I've been a resident, $76.38 every year for the rest of our lives, as long as we live in Midvale. Now, these increases may be justifiable on their own. You know, it was a nice presentation, but frankly, I don't know if anybody in the audience has any clue what was really going on in there. It's just too quick. So you look at these increases, and they're probably somewhere justified, but we see the growth. There's all these beautiful new buildings, schools. They're not paying tax. And so I don't know where all the revenue is from all the new houses built from the Garbett community. Where's all that money going? And why do I say that? It's simple examples. It's like the websites. We have 2 city websites. I took a screenshot of one of the websites today, and it has the previous mayor, Marcus. This is on the Engage Midvale website that we pay for, as the current mayor. It's outdated, inaccurate, and we still pay for it. And I believe the person overseeing this is getting a raise this year. I think everyone's getting a raise, just like they got last year. And I don't know about you guys, but like, I only get a raise when I go above and beyond. I don't get a raise for doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I want to make this very clear. I really appreciate our mayor. And even when he was District 5, he stuck up for some things in District 1, and I really appreciated that. And I appreciate your communication. But part of this proposed increase is going towards the Salt Lake County Animal Services. And our mayor is the board, or is chair of the board of directors. We had a conversation over the internet. I first got this. Mr. Mayor filled this out on, what was it? It was the first month of the year. It's on the 16th of 2025. There's a question in here. It says, do you have any paid or unpaid position on a board of directors? He indicated no. 2 weeks ago, we had a Facebook conversation. I asked him directly, do you think this is a conflict of interest? He said, no conflict. I don't get paid anything. But it specifically states in there, paid or unpaid. And then my favorite part.
Chad, I hate to interrupt, as awkward as this is going to be, but your time is up. So
you're not going to allow me to finish? Does anyone else here want to talk? I have a little bit more to say.
We have 3 minutes for each speaker. And to answer your question about the animal.
Well, no, I didn't have a question.
So it's not a board of directors, it's an advisory board that benefits Midvale City because, as you see in our budget.
You did disclose that though on your latest disclosure.
Yeah, the latest disclosure is different than the one you're reading.
Wow.
One is for a candidate for office, one is for an elected official serving as an elected official.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the debate thing. It's just one was disclosed and one wasn't on one date. So, and that's why we're here, is transparency. But if my time's up and I'm getting kicked off, I appreciate it.
Okay. Sorry, but yeah, we do have a 3-minute timer for every speaker. So if there's anyone else who would like to speak, step on up, state your name for the record.
My name is Ken Harper. I live at 7860 South Holden Street, just down the street, right next to that 4th floor monstrosity that was just built down there. My first impression when I read this is you're now going to want to take more of my Social Security check for this property tax increase. I, as a common citizen, what can I expect from the Unified Police, Animal Services, or Emergency Management for the additional money that's going to be taken from my property tax? I think that was a very good presentation, but there was a lot there to digest. So I'd like to know, what is it? How's my life going to change next March compared to what it is today, because you're taking more money out of my Social Security check? Well, there's a lot of things that go through my mind. Most of it's associated with that. But I've lived in Midvale for 42 years at the same address for 42 years, my first 21 and my last 20. And to be honest with you, the last 12 months has been the most unsafe part of my life in Midvale, compared mostly to curb parking associated with Midvale City providing free curb parking. I risked my life when the contractors were there just coming out of my driveway because of cars parked here, cars parked here, and cars parked there. Can I expect something to be done to help me solve that problem so that I can feel good, that I can get out of my driveway without being hit from cars coming here or cars coming there? Is this money going to go there to help me solve my personal ground level issues? I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Harper. It's good to see you. State your name for the record, please.
My name's Doug Wright. I say no to all property taxes, and certainly to an increase in property taxes. This goes without saying, but you're taxing people out of their homes who do own homes, and you're keeping people who don't own homes from being able to purchase homes. Citywide salary and benefit increases. I don't know what those increases are, but I'm sure they're more than most of us had increases in our wages and benefits past year. I'm not a property tax expert, but as I look around at the buildings and the maintenance of government properties, what I see is elementary schools, fire stations, and government buildings that are built as Taj Mahals. I think the property taxes have nothing to do with the value of the property. From what I can tell, municipalities and these institutions and organizations determine what they want to spend, and then they tax your property based on that, not on what is needed, but on what is wanted. That's my opinion. So I say no to property tax increases.
Thank you, Doug.
One other comment. I do have a few minutes left.
Floor.
I've been charged a streetlight fee by Midvale for the last 10 years. Do I have any streetlights on my street? No, I don't.
Thank you, Doug. Would anyone else like to address the city council? Come on up, state your name for the record.
My name is Lana Stewart, and I just would like to bring up some issues that maybe aren't going to be solved today, but something to think about. Street lights is one. Yes, we've been paying for street lights, and I live on Twin Peaks Street, and my street light turned out to be a barnyard pole, not a nice fancy black type design pole that the two blocks up has. And so I felt like I wasn't very happy with that. And I was told, well, I didn't go to the meetings, so I'm going to try to go to more meetings to let you know. Also, I agree. I think property tax is improperly evaluated because I live in a home that I remodeled in 2010. I have made no changes to that house since then, and yet my taxes keep going up. I understand some of it has to do with the growth in the neighborhood, but why doesn't the growth pay it instead of me, that my property has not really changed in value? If I'm going to sell it, maybe it would change in value because of the cost. So is there a way that taxes could be more properly applied to situations? You know, like I bought my house for, let's say with the remodel, $300,000 and some thousand. If I sold it for $500,000 or $600,000, then I've got an increase that I could pay taxes on. But right now I don't. There is no increase to the value to me. So that's something I'd like to say. And then I live really close to State Street, and I would like to find out if somebody can't do something about the noise on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. I've called the police department before because it is very noisy, and I don't remember it being like that as long as I've lived here since '97. And I've been told that it's the motorcycles and they can't catch them. Well, I think that there's got to be ways that you can control State Street so that we have a good standard of living. We can go to sleep at night or open our windows without having roaring sounds going up and down the street. So there's just suggestions I have that I'm disappointed with things that have happened in Midvale over this period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana.
See how good looking this group is. Pretty good looking group. My name's Matt Bjornson. I've lived in Midvale for 41 years. We built our house back in '83 and moved in '84. And it's been a good place to live, but I have seen taxes go up, and we had a mayor back then, Sagini, that had a way of cutting through things and getting rid of the fat and made things really bearable. Really appreciated her a lot, and I kind of miss her. But I think what's going to happen here is you're opening up a Pandora's box. And once this tax goes in, then we start saying we got to increase that a little bit. We got another thing, we got to increase that budget for that new box that we got. And I really wonder if it's going to do what it's supposed to do. My feeling is just start cutting the general fund. I don't think the services have really changed that much, and I don't know, I'm just not that impressed. I know we're going to have some RDAs taking place here, and I wonder if we're going to have another tax involved with that. And it just kind of bothers me that there's a lot of things that can happen, and they can find a lot of reasons to increase that new tax. And I'm just really concerned that it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It could easily be pilfered and used for something else. So I say no. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to give public comment? We do have someone online. We will let everyone in the room speak first and then go to the online folks. And just state your name for the record.
Name's Brian Janes. I live on 70 West, 8600 South. I grew up there and I bought property there. And it used to be a really nice street to live on. But now the properties are bigger, and when they go up for sale, businesses buy them. And it's not even like a neighborhood over there anymore. At the top of the street, it's all businesses. There's a junkyard. Midvale allows trucks there. There's a sign at the top of the street that says no trucks over 30,000 GVW, but they're up and down our street every day, day and night. The sidewalks go up to the canal. I see the kids coming from Copperview Elementary to go to school. They get to the canal. There's no place for them to walk but on the street, because the side of them streets that the property owns there or the businesses own, they just use them as trash dumps. It looks like the city dump there. And I'm opposed to a tax increase because they're not doing nothing about any of these things when I reported them in the past. I call code enforcement. I never get an answer from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else in the room want to give public comment? Step up to the microphone and state your name for the record.
You don't know?
we know you.
Stacy Phillips. I live on the very northeast corner of Midvale. Been here for nearly 58 years. First of all, I recognize that we have to have a tax increase. I was here, what was it, 10 plus years ago, when they hadn't done a tax increase and they proposed 150% tax increase, and that was ugly. So I understand that we have to do small increments, but I do have some questions about how our money's being spent. Looking through the budget, personally, I'm gonna ask, I know 25,000 is not a lot of money, but why are we spending that for a consultant for harvest days? That's a little drop in the bucket, but that's a lot of money to be spending for a consultant. That's like $7,000 or $8,000 more than we spend on fireworks. I want to ask why we are spending money, why we are paying money to Utopia. I remember seeing the start of Utopia years ago, and eventually it was promised that we would be free and clear of it. But I've noticed over the last several years, our increase in payments, it has increased. We're over $1 million this year. Why are we still paying to Utopia? I don't understand that. We just need to be a little bit more thoughtful and more transparent in this city, is my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to give public comment? State your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Molly Swanger. So first I want to say thank you all, especially compiling the budget and sharing it all. I understand the need for this. My concern is that increase in public safety. And I believe it was 2 years ago, the state legislature passed the thing with UPD. And I guess my longer term concern is it feels like the state continues during the general legislative session to pass things that then incur cost to the city council. You all have to take the brunt of hearing how the cost of things continue to increase. I know that you all do lobbying to some extent, or advocacy, I'll word it, shouldn't say lobbying. And I hope as individuals who are here in this room that we do the same thing and contact our representatives. But I would just, any more we can do, because, you know, the economy is rough. It is tough to own a home and see that continue increase. So again, thank you. And just hopefully we can continue to get our representatives to represent us.
Okay. Thank you, Molly. Anyone else in the room who would like to give public comment? State your name for the record, please.
My name is Diane Bjornson, and I also live on 7500 South, about 600 East. I also am against increased taxes, and I just wanted to make a comment that in this paper, you say this isn't about growing government, it's about sustaining the core services we all depend on. Well, I don't agree that it's not growing government. I really think that anytime you put a tax on and you're collecting so much money, it's going to be money not spent from what we had before that will be growing. Now, I have some time left, and I would like to turn that over to Mr. Thomas so that he could use the rest of my time, if that's okay.
Okay, we don't need to pay extra. We need to cut. Animal services, we need an extra $10,000 for them. They spent last year in 2024, there was a miscellaneous equipment, or they needed something miscellaneous, and it was a $20,000 charge, and there was nothing miscellaneous the year before, and there's nothing accounted for it this year. Just very interesting. About that, if you do have an animal problem, like raccoons, you know what happens when you call? They say, you're going to have to call Salt Lake County Animal Services. You know what Salt Lake County Animal Service says? It says, it's your problem. Raccoons on your property, it's your problem. We don't have deer stampeding. There's no safety threat with the animals in Midvale. And so they don't need an extra $10,000. This isn't about one meeting. It's not about one vote. It's not about one website. It's not about one disclosure. It's about a pattern a consistent upward climb in costs paired with lack of clear and honest communication. A line item on a tax notice is not transparency. Real transparency is showing why, and it's making sure the information is accurate, and it's disclosing conflicts openly and proving to residents that every dollar is accounted for and spent wisely. My property taxes, since I've lived here in 6 years, up $1,000 from when I moved in. It's really hurting people.
Thank you, Diane. Your time is not expired yet, and thank you, Chad. Is there anyone else in the audience here who would like to address the council? And state your name for the record.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Luke Maines. Thank you. I'll be brief. I know in attending many of the budget meetings prior to this one, where you've discussed a lot of the things, I recognize a lot of the reasons for this tax increase that may not be apparent to some of the other members of the public, and I appreciate the work that you've done to help keep this as low as possible. I also recognize that the consistently highest cost to the city is UDP, and that's one of the reasons it's being spun off into its own public safety budget. And I would just like the council to consider that as we go forward, if we adopt this new tax, that public safety really include a broad definition of public safety beyond just UDP, beyond as much as good as the police do for us. I think that a broad approach to public safety is going to be the most cost effective in the long term, but also the most beneficial. And I think I'd be more comfortable with the tax increase if I knew that it was going to help community services beyond just finding and arresting people and actually helping prevent crime in the first place, which will long term reduce the costs or at least maintain them as inflation increases. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council? Okay, we do have one person online who wishes to address the council. IT, will you do your magic and bring them to the meeting? And whoever that is, please state your name for the record. First, unmute and then state your name for the record if you are muted. Is it us or them? While we are waiting, is there anyone else in the audience who may wish to address the council? Still seeing none. We are going to give it another minute or two, and hopefully, if you can hear us, you may be muted. Is there a chat feature to this online? Are you able to, in the chat, state to the person that we can't hear them?
that them?
Is there an indication that this person is talking? Okay. Well,
Is there like name on it so we can contact them or something?
yeah, it's Tyler, right? Well, I don't think that we should wait necessarily any longer. But I would hate to miss his comments since he has done what he could to participate. How about in this interim, if there are any other questions or comments from the council? Do we want to do that? See if. Yeah, first we would have to close public comment if council wants to.
So we can reach out to him. Well, you can move forward. Yeah. If we have to reopen, we can reopen. Or, yeah.
Last chance for anyone in the room. If you want to address the council, step up now. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from the council to close public comment.
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing public comment, say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Oh, did that work?
Any opposed?
That would have been.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to like move to.
Public comment is at least temporarily suspended. We'll see if we can get Tyler online. Another great reason to come in person if you can. It's much easier to speak, but we hope that we can get Tyler on the line. Lots of things discussed from our residents. I will open the floor to the council for any of their comments, questions, or concerns.
We've gone through this a few times, and I always bring it up and mention it just so it's sort of clear. Totally empathize with the idea of paying more in your property tax. It's painful and rough, and it's not an easy decision either way. I don't want to address that too much, but what's hard for Midvale is, the notice and the form come from Midvale City. And so it looks like, out of your $1,000 increase, oh, that's Midvale a lot of times. Well, we're really one of the smallest pies on there, right? And I'm not saying that as an excuse or a reason that we should raise taxes or not raise taxes, but a lot of times it looks like, for example, school buildings and fire departments. Check. Well, those are not, is that Tyler?
Why don't you finish your thought and then we'll.
Those aren't directly related to any of our taxes or we do, right? But people look at it and see it, and they are government buildings. So we have to try to manage that and explain that. And that's challenging for us because, again, it comes under Midvale City, so it looks like ours. But our pie is small, and we try to do our best, to offer services. And, I have maybe a few other thoughts, but that's just sort of a challenge that we face that I always try to mention this time of the year. And again, not in relation to, should we or shouldn't we, but that property notice is kind of hard,
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Brown. If there's a motion from the council, if you want to reopen public comment to allow Tyler his 3 minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of reopening public comment, say aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any opposed? Okay, we are back into public comment. Tyler, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, your 3 minutes is starting.
Excellent. Thank you. I apologize for the audio issues. I'm not really sure what happened there. So, thank you for the opportunity to you give me to address the council. I appreciate the efforts you've all made to enhance public safety in our community through this proposed public safety fund. I recognize the intent and I appreciate it. From the information presented, it appears that a significant portion of the funding will be allocated toward policing resources. I would like to inquire about the specific outcomes we can expect from this incremental cost increase to taxpayers. For instance, will this result in measurable reductions in crime rates? The underlying premise here seems to be that additional investment in this fund will lead to improved public safety. To ensure accountability to Midvale taxpayers, could you please share the key performance indicators or metrics that you will be using to track the fund's effectiveness? Examples might include something like violent crimes per dollar invested in policing, or something to that effect. Other quantifiable measures of return on investment. In my own research, I've reviewed the Unified Police Department's website, but was unable to collect detailed crime statistics, up-to-date statistics for Midvale. I've reached out via email to request this data, but have been unsuccessful thus far. So, how is the council monitoring and evaluating the return on investment for these expenditures? And echoing the concerns raised by previous speakers, I am particularly interested in understanding the incremental benefits that this additional funding will provide relative to the incremental costs. Your insights on these matters would be greatly valued as we consider this important decision. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you, Tyler, and sorry for the whatever issues we're having there. I will say real quick, those statistics should be available on our website. Maybe not specifically the cost per violent crime that you mentioned, but that does sound like a pretty easy number to put together. But we do have monthly and quarterly reports from our UPD folks, and I, as mayor, sit on their board of directors, which has been disclosed. So there is definitely insight. Mariah also participates in the UPD Finance Committee, as well as City Manager Dahl and myself. So we do have oversight there. But those statistics, we will get those to you and make sure that you know exactly where to find them moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
We close again, right?
That would be a decision on the council. We normally have one. Is any objection from the council for another 3 minutes?
Oh, no, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Another
Is
30.
anyone from the UPD here? You, okay. So approximately 5 years ago, in the words of a former Midvale city manager, I remember him saying very clearly, we get a bill every year from UPD. It's usually 15 to 20% more than it was the last year, and we just go ahead and pay it. Why are we going ahead and just paying these bills? Is anyone questioning what we're paying for? Now, I've never had a problem with UPD, but from what I understand, the bill keeps going up and up, and some cities have dropped out of UPD because they can't afford or don't see the value in why these costs keep going up. Thank you.
To answer that question, the budget from last year to this year of the UPD was an increase of 3.24%. And again, I sit on the board of directors of UPD. We spend several months of the year doing nothing but going through the budget. And I will take this time myself to commend UPD for all of the money that they were able to find to cut from the budget to make that 3.4% what it was, and not more that it could be. I think the CFO and chief, both chiefs sitting in the back of the room, did an amazing job cutting parts of the budget that assuredly would not result in a reduction of services for the from the Unified Police Department. Public comment is still open. For the sake of fairness, if there's anyone else who would like to address the council one last time.
I'd like to see all the money on this increase go directly to the police to help them do a better job. I don't think we need to set up separate funds for other entities in the name of public safety. I think it all starts with the police, and like the online caller, I think that it would be wonderful if we could see how this benefits us. Thank you.
And just to clarify, 99% of the money that would be raised through this property tax increase is going directly to the Unified Police Department. But your point is taken, and the point of many folks here tonight, with an increased cost, which all of us up here pay as well, we will expect to see results from the Unified Police Department, and that is absolutely not an unrealistic expectation of people to say. Like, you don't go anywhere and someone requests that you pay more money and you don't question what else you're getting for that money. So that is a very fair request from multiple folks here today. Now, since we've reopened public comment, is there a motion to re-close public comment?
I motion we close public comment.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of closing public comment again, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Public comment is closed. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns from the council?
I had a second thought that I wanted to continue, but it felt good to break. And maybe this is something for us, or I don't know how to go about this, but there always seems to be this feeling of, is this enough notice? Is this enough transparency? And it gets a little personal sometimes, because I feel like our city staff is about the most honest people that exist, right? And I don't want to cross the line where, well, what are you doing with all this money, right? This is public. This is disclosed. We start this process in March, and there's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of meetings where we talk about how much we're going to spend for harvest days, and all of these meetings where we notice them. They go out in the same way we sort of notice these ones. And so this isn't the first one where we've talked about it or kind of run through these numbers, right? There's a good 6-month period. There's 12 months of meetings where we talk about how we spend money, and everything is public, right? We don't discuss or do anything that you couldn't see. So it's like, how do we message or package it so people know, when those are coming up to look or engage? Because I'd love to hear thoughts and comments, along the way, right? Even if I don't agree, sometimes people have come in and said, oh, everything you're voting on stinks, but at least there's 20 people here, talking to me about it, so I can learn from it, right? So I don't know how we can do that to improve that, because I promise you that our dollars are all accounted for, both from, a public finance standpoint. We have an auditor that comes in. When is that typically, to audit? And they'll come in to do a public presentation on it. So you'll see all of these things, but a lot of times we don't see the public during those, right? And maybe that's, how do we notice that so people at least can feel comfortable? Maybe they still hate the increase, right? Like, they don't like it. Totally can appreciate that. But at least they know that the money is being, they're stewards of it. Maybe you don't agree with what we're doing with it, but at least there's an honesty component, and we're trying, right? So maybe that's something we can think of to improve. That's really my thought. But
I also want to just make it really clear here that not only do the mayor and the city staff work with UPD to work through this budget, we as a city have also looked at other options. So it's not just we haven't always just been like UPD is where we're at. They're getting all our money. We looked at seeing if it was more beneficial for us to open our own again, and it was exponentially more expensive, and nor could we handle the services. So this isn't just we just pay the bill. We really do work with them to get it in hand, and we really try our best to make sure that that is money well spent, not just we get the bill and we pay it. Like, we have done the footwork to see what we can do on our city's end to make this better and keep the services where they're at and improve them. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, and just to expound on that, as a new member of the council, they sat down with me for 3 hours and went through what every one of our shared services means, the benefit. They described use cases, examples of how we got benefit out of that. So they've taken the time to educate us on why and where these costs are coming from. And again, I think just to reiterate, like, how do we get more of that in front of all of you and our residents so they know the work that they're putting in to keep a secure, safe city? If you go back to the 2024 survey that was done, the #1 priority to residents was public safety. So I think that we're trying to address that with this and giving it transparency. I think to Brian's point, like, how do we do more of that if that's not what's happening?
Councilman Glover, I know you have thoughts.
I always have thoughts, but don't always say them. But it's been a long haul with UPD. We've had ups and downs. We've had all kinds of things and they are improving and they're doing a really good job. I was here when we had our own police department, and they were a great police department, but they served a lot smaller community. And we did not have the detectives and all of the other stuff that we get with UPD that we're getting. And their increase, it's just like in business or anything else. Every year we see increases. If we want to keep our employees, we have to give them an increase. If we don't, they're going to be gone, and we'll start all over again and train, and it'll cost us more money in the long run than giving our employees and keeping them up with what is needed. We don't pay the most of any of the cities, but we're one of the smaller cities, and we have to be able to compete. If we can't compete, we won't have the people that we need, and it won't work for us. I hate property tax. I'll tell you that right up front. I think it's the most unfair tax that we have. The reason that they use it is because it's a stable tax. The school districts use it because they know every year they're going to get the same amount, or they're going to get more if they increase it. Sales tax, we make a lot more money to run the city on sales tax. I would recommend everybody buy their stuff in Midvale. It'll help. But sales tax is up and down. If the economy goes good, we do really good. If it doesn't do good, we really do bad. We've had I think it was 2008 or sometime, I was on the council, and we literally had the recession, and we had two options. We had to either fire people or give them less money. Our staff and the people that worked in Midvale at that time, they opted to take less money so that everybody could have a job. And we floated through that. It's an up and down situation. And to be honest with you, I really don't like this property tax. The last one, the 150% one, I voted against it. I would vote against this if I thought we could get through it, but I don't think we're going to make it if we don't get this increase. We'll either have to cut police services, and we actually need more, but they're doing with what we have and just giving the increase that they need. So I sympathize with every one of you, and I hope that the senior back there, please go and try to get that circuit breaker from the county so that you don't have to pay as much. Do all that you can to save. But I wish there was another way that we could do this without having some type of an increase. As far as the public service tax, the separate one, we could have done this. We could have just kept it in the general fund and just raised it the same amount and passed it. But I think for me, I feel more comfortable knowing that the increase is going to our public safety, because that's the most important thing to me. I just don't see any other way. And I've been on this council for a long, long time and tried to keep the property taxes down as absolutely low as we can. But we have growth. And part of the things you don't really see and don't understand is all of this growth to the west of us, we don't get a lot of property taxes off of that because it's for a redevelopment. Eventually, in a few more years, we are going to get all the taxes of that. But in order to get that development to go out on those Superfund sites, we had to do what we did. And so we don't get as much property tax. And because of that, we have more services that we have to give with the police, but we don't get what we really should be getting back. But we wouldn't have the development without it. So we wouldn't have all of the commercial too that gives us more sales tax. So it's a give and pull. And I hope that we're giving you decent services, and that's our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate your historical perspective and knowledge. I don't think any of us up here love property taxes either. Councilman Glover has a particular hatred for it that we all know. But, you know, none of us like to pay new taxes, but I think we do like when we need our police department. We like that they answer the phone. And I know some folks have mentioned animal services, but when we need animal services, we need animal services. I don't have to remind anyone up here. A few years ago, we had a person who was hoarding reptiles of all shapes and sizes in Midvale, and that was a major animal control operation. And we were lucky to have animal services because it would have been a significant chunk out of our police and public safety budget. Any other comments from council?
Just one more there. I believe, and I think I'm right. If you have raccoons.
I have a note of this.
Okay, that you can, there is a call you can make and we pay for that.
Since raccoons are a non-native species, the animal control does not come out to remove raccoons. There is a part of our contract with Animal Services that goes to an organization called Urban Wildlife, who will come out and remove your raccoons.
They don't work. That's not correct.
It is correct. I would say what they do, they trap them and then they actually euthanize them. That's the program. Are there any other comments or questions from council?
I'd just like to say on that note, maybe on a lighter note, which surprised me, about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Grand Street, there was 2 deer running down the middle of the road, which I never thought I'd see in Midvale. You know, I didn't end up calling Animal Services because I was driving to work, and I literally was like 30 seconds after I saw them that I registered, because I never thought I would see 2 deer just prancing down our road that we have a parade on. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Yeah. So it was just really funny to me that we do have some deer issues apparently.
Yeah. Skunks is also an urban wildlife phone call.
Wildlife take care of it. The last 2 they said was your problem.
So
yeah.
Non-public comment. So
yes, we're not in public comment anymore. We do have to. Is there any City Manager Dahl? Do you have any comments or anything you would like to add based on the conversation here tonight?
Yeah. Excuse me. Haven't talked for so long that I think the first thing is I just want to thank everyone for being here this evening and providing your comments. We wouldn't be here without you, and I think everyone that has commented tonight has, things that we need to look into, and it's part of our organization that we want to strive to be better and to try to meet everyone's needs to the best of our abilities. One of the things that ends up happening with a lot of these kinds of meetings is that we have folks who show up, I'm not saying everyone here, but that are concerned about the costs increasing and want to talk about how we should cut things. And that's a good thing. We should be looking through our budget and trying to find efficiencies where we can. The people who don't show up to this meeting, though, are oftentimes not the ones who we hear throughout the year who want us to increase services. And that is the balance that this council has to work on throughout the year, throughout the budget cycle, is both how do we increase efficiencies, decrease costs, but then for everyone who has needs and things that they want, how do we address those? And clearly, as people have found or pointed out, there are places where we're going to be able to continue to try to find efficiencies. And yet, as a lot of those things are identified that we're talking about, they are small portions of a very large budget that we're working on, meaning we can always work on trying to find more efficiencies within that. So I appreciate what has been said. To that end, there's never enough time. We've generated a 250 page, I can't remember how many pages it is. It's 120. Sorry, it feels like 250 when you read it. 120 page budget book with information that we're conveying on a very complicated budget with complicated revenue sources where we're trying to achieve things that the state changes the rules on in every given year. One of the challenges with this evening, you know, as we go through and how do we communicate this, is that there are some things that were identified that aren't in that budget. And that's clearly an issue of, we are trying to convey something that's super complex and people are going to get confused on it, and how do we improve that? So that's something that we can improve on. To that end, because we won't have enough time to go through every bit of information, if people want to call in and set up a time to talk about any of these issues, I'm happy to have that discussion with them and talk through any of the items that they are particularly concerned about. As I was taking notes of the things that were said this evening, you know, there's a few things that I think are maybe worth just kind of trying to resolve right now, and other ones, like I said, are probably require follow-up conversation. One of those is how the new growth formula works. That was brought up. Why aren't we capturing more of the funding from the new growth? There are a lot of factors that play into those calculations, and in a lot of ways we're given those numbers by the state, and we try to work with them in order to adjust what it is. It's not our calculation, it's theirs. But it comes from, we see new growth, we see new buildings and those kinds of things, and that is a net positive. But the thing that we don't account for all the time are decreasing in any values. If buildings are torn down, if a building is renovated, those things are not captured in that new growth formula. And in addition to that, there's like this difference on, as like we were talking about before, the 100% taxation rate on commercial versus the reduced taxation rate for residential properties, and how does that play in? And so there's all these factors that go into this formula, and then they tell us, you know, what that number of that new growth is going to be in that year. One of the things that doesn't factor into it, though, we're talking about property tax, is that that new growth can add to the overall property tax without a rate increase for everyone. But one of the things it doesn't account for is that in a lot of these cases, it generates new sales tax. We have more people buying things in the city, and that is money that comes to us. My whole point of this is that if you didn't follow what I just said, that is the point, is that we have extremely complicated rules that govern how a lot of these things are done, and we can always continue to try to improve on how to communicate that to the public that aren't steeped in these details every day. And so again, I really take to heart some of those comments that were brought up. A few people brought up streetlights. Just talking to that fee really quickly, is that when that fee was originally enacted back in 2016, it was before I got here.
Saying
a little bit.
Before I got here.
Yeah. So that streetlight fee was intended to cover bringing new streetlights to Midvale, but it was at the time not intended to be giving everyone a streetlight. And this gets into this whole thing of what do people want versus when we try to do what is the most efficient thing for the community. Oftentimes that does mean that there are some people who are not getting their direct needs met. But when you're driving on the arterial streets or connector streets or those kinds of things, and they have streetlights, you are receiving the benefits of those streetlights existing. And that was sort of what that intent was. Now, we are going to be moving into doing a new streetlight master plan with the intent of expanding the street lighting program. But we want to do that in a way that is cost efficient, strategic, makes sense, makes it so that we're providing that kind of street illumination to the most people. And again, that's never going to be that everyone is going to get one in front of their house, or we have to pay that amount of money. And that's just some of that complication that we're trying to work through. In addition to that, we had some comments brought up about concerns about traffic. We have a traffic committee that has been going for 2 years now or so. It meets quarterly in order to review all of the traffic concerns that are brought in. This includes areas of no parking, speeding, those kinds of things, signage, crosswalks. The reason that we do it by this committee format is that in the past we had these proposals from the community coming in on a very regular basis. And what we weren't doing was necessarily comparing them to say, what is the most cost-effective thing that we can do that can improve the traffic for the most people for the budget that we have. We started this committee in order to make sure that we could review groups of those requests, evaluate them against each other, and make strategic budget decisions in order to try to address some of those traffic conditions. And so I'd recommend that people who have those concerns participate in that process. And that will help with our efforts in order to try to efficiently spend money rather than trying to meet everyone's individual need just simply on who comes in first. So there's that as far as budget issues. There was, I know I'm going to miss some stuff here. Big trucks. An issue that was brought up about Utopia. We have, I'm not going to have the exact timing on this right off the top of my head, but a number of years ago, we entered into an agreement wherein we are helping to cover debt. We, Midvale, and a number of communities that were participating in Utopia at the time, we committed in order to support them that we would provide coverage for their debt service for a period of time. One of the things was identified that was correct. The amount that is owed to Utopia is increasing, which is based off of a formula that we agreed to at the time that we entered into that. However, we have also been receiving an increasing, and this is where it gets very governmenty and complicated again, but we're also receiving more money from Utopia in an annual disbursement that goes to the communities that pay this debt service because they're making more money that helps offset the growth in the amount that we are paying to Utopia. So it is accurate that that amount is going up, but we are not coming up with new property tax or sales tax revenue that is necessarily covering that. I got that right there, Mariah, right? Did I say that closely enough? All right.
I know earlier this year in a plain white envelope, I had a check from Utopia made out to Midvale City, obviously, but it was the $800,000 Utopia reimbursement. So one, I thought they should put that in a more official looking envelope and maybe address it to like Mariah, but we did, to my knowledge, receive $800,000 as a reimbursement from Utopia.
And Matt, before you move on from that, do we know, I mean, obviously someone knows, like, when does that Utopia bond payment thing end? Because that's a good question to always have. Yeah. I think it's not too, it was a 30-year maybe?
I want to say it was 2034 is what comes
Yeah.
to my mind.
I think we did it 32 or 34.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, comments have been brought up about our participation in a wide variety of committees. One of those is Utopia. We have staff that are on the board of Utopia. And amongst the other things that we do in that, we are strong advocates that as that organization grows, that the amount that they would contribute to the communities that are contributing towards that debt service, that amount would increase on a regular basis, and is a big place where we're advocating in order to try to reduce the amount that we have to pay from other sources. And that is the benefit of us being on all these different committees, is that we are representing the interests of you and of the city. And I do think that those are good meetings that people who are interested should also participate in watching, because I think that Midvale represents itself very well in trying to push some of those organizations in order to reduce costs. Not to go into too many details, I've been told I'm an energy vampire when I'm talking in these meetings. So, but for example, we had from one of our partner organizations that provide services that when they approve a budget, we essentially have to be accepting of that budget as a member of that organization, presented a capital improvement project that was going to add significant cost to Midvale. We had staff that helped them understand how to better structure their capital improvements so that it didn't have as big an impact on the city. I'm sorry, I'll stop talking. I know people are leaving. I'm talking them out of the room. But we are regularly trying to do those kinds of things. And so I just want people to be aware of that. And then just the final thing I want to say, I know I missed a couple things here and there, is just, I mean, I've kind of covered it already, but there was the final comment on the law enforcement. We have quarterly, well, we receive monthly reports on crime data in Midvale related to cases and calls. We have to do an extensive amount of reporting for the officers that are funded through a state program that address homelessness issues, and that those are regularly available and also presented in these meetings. I think one of the things that was highlighted was this idea of we want to see what the cases to dollars are. That's a fine statistic. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have too, is that as we go through and we provide all this budget information, we think we're hitting the information that at least hits what the state requires and that we think is informational. But obviously through this meeting, it's clear that people have different interests and want to see that information conveyed in a different way. And we're happy to have conversations about that. And if it's a reasonable way for us to convey that information, looking at how we're going to do that. But overall, I mean, like I said, we are generating a ton of information on these budgets throughout the year. And I hope people will pay attention to those, and hopefully that'll satiate some of the concerns about the metrics and things about how we're handling the budget. Did I forget any particular topics that I should go back and cover?
I don't think you forgot anything.
Matt, I just want to follow up on that last point. I definitely think the reason why it's good that people come in and do this is we learn on metrics or things people are interested in, so we can change. I do want to say I also expect, to see some measurable differences and changes with UPD. That being said, the nature of the police department is like, we could say this and everything could be good, and there could be some, crazy SWAT thing that happens, that generally we're really safe all around, right? And then there's this one thing that could, just be expensive and raise and make the numbers look, challenging, right? Like, oh, why did you have 2 SWAT raids this year instead of 1, and now everything's crazy? And so I think we need to, as we see these reports as they go forward, the day-to-day side is definitely important. I think the most important, to make sure we're hitting the day-to-day. Violent crimes are also, but give a little bit of deference if they can't, if they could account for everything. That Minority Report was that movie where the cops could guess when people were going to commit crimes. That's not an option at the moment. So I think we just need to keep on the police department to give us the data that we need, but also be a little differential if something really unexpected happens. And I try to see both sides of that. I can see everyone wanting that.
We do invite everyone to not commit crimes. That would be a big help to all of us.
That's a policy we do.
One thing. Thank you, City Manager Dahl, for your brief remarks. I did want to say one of the great things that came from this conversation is Jerry, who has left, but the senior program that he spoke of, I think that's something great that we could have on our website. Check out the links and make sure that it's legit. I didn't know that off the top of my head.
We have those, and also if you are if you qualify through the county, then we offer a discount on our utility bills as well.
He said there's only 2 weeks though, so we should like do a very serious campaign of that for not like just today, but for like the next 2 weeks to really, regardless of what our decision is, if they only have 2 weeks for that, we need to really push that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Harper, I still have your email address, so I can send you that information.
I looked into that once and based on what I seen at that time, I did not follow.
Always worth the check to see.
It's always worth a check.
Yeah. Okay, if there are any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, this is an action item. And in your packet, you will find the recommended motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2025-0-13, levying a Midvale City public safety property tax at a rate of 0.000249 for calendar year 2025.
Second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Charlie, will you call the yeas and nays?
Councilmember Billings,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
Micolash.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, council, for making the decision. Thank you, city staff, for such a detailed report and all you do to reduce the impact as much as possible. And thank you to our UPD partners for all they did to make this budget as little impact as possible. But we do recognize $5.58 per month is not a great thing for some people, but do know that 99% of that $5.58 is going to the Unified Police Department. We have two action items on tonight's agenda, so we'll move on to action item A, consider resolution number 2025 R47, adopting the final operating and capital budgets for Midvale City, state of Utah for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. And I guess we don't need to, there's no more to say for that one. Okay. Is there a motion from the council to approve that resolution?
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number 2025-R-47, adopting the final operating and capital budgets for Midvale City, state of Utah for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Charlie, will you call the yeas and nays?
Councilmember Billings,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
Micolash.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously as well. One final action item, consider resolution number
We did that one, Mayor, sorry,
2025.
we did that one.
Oh, that was the one that went over to the other one. Okay. We do not have a closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Are there any opposed? We are adjourned.